This video is dedicated to Christian Roberts. Christian, thank you. Thrasios Triton Hero and Kydele Chosen of Kruphix versus Ashaya Soul of the Wild, Kresh the Bloodbraided, and Depala Pilot Exemplar. That's not an incredible hand, I think. If we get another land, we can always go Myriad Landscape on turn 3, but then we still don't have much of anything to do after that. Yeah, I think I have to mulligan that one. I want to get into some more decent ramp. I pretty much get into a lot of the same cards there. Yeah, we'll keep that one. A turn 1 Green Sun Zenith from the mono green player takes him into Dryad Arbor, because that is obviously a creature with 0 CMC. And we are getting into the same cards. There is the Heartwood Storyteller for us again. Get the Myriad Landscape into play tapped, and likely just going to be playing a land out next turn and leaving it at that. Soulscar Mage is the first creature to be cast in this game. Reliquary Tower from the Jund player as well, so only a couple of colours on one land so far. And there's a Cultivate on turn 2 from Ashaya, thanks to the Dryad Arbor coming into play on turn 1. And yeah, just another land for us, so we'll drop the island and we can pretend to hold up counter magic. I highly doubt anyone's going to play around that, but we'll try and make them. Marble Diamond from the Boros player. Opportunist now from Kresh. It deals 1 damage to a target creature that was dealt damage this turn. And there we go, that's pretty impressive. Still 6 cards in hand and Ashaya coming down on turn 3. There's a Tempt with Discovery. We can either crack the Myriad Landscape this turn or go for Rhystic Study. I think we're going to attract a lot of attention from the Ashaya player, but if past experience is anything to go by, I think Thrasios will be doing that anyway. But I think in order to combat that, we need as much mana as possible, so instead of Rhystic Study, I'm going to go for the Myriad Landscape being cracked. Arcane Signet with the new artwork, followed by Depala Pilot Exemplar. And the Jund player just went right through the turn, and there is Allosaurus Shepherd from the Ashaya player, and that goes straight into a Mana Reflection. So at least we're not taking a big hit from the AA Ashaya this turn, like I thought we would be. Okay, another forest for us. That is an island this turn, I think. And let's get the Summoning Sickness away from Kydele. And yeah, the 3-3 Depala is noticing that the Ashaya player is going crazy over there, so swinging in that direction against the 1-1. And then following up after combat, a 7 Dwarves, which you would assume he has all 7 in there, and Toolcraft Exemplar as well. Once again, the Jund player passing through the turn, so I'm guessing that it's black that he's missing over there. A lot of mana can be generated from the mono green player here. And there's the Yavimaya, so going to fix at least 2 of the players' green mana. And Kamal, Fist of Krosa. So a nice bit of board wipe reassurance is usually what that's in here for. For anyone who doesn't know, you can turn lands into 1-1 creatures in response to a damnation or something, and you can do that to your opponent's lands. And there is a Quirion Ranger as well. Return a forest to its owner's hand, untap a creature. Okay, but going for the overrun on Kamal. So if anyone's got a board wipe, the time to do it would be during the next turn cycle, I think, assuming that they're going to tap out. That is a clear shot. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and it deals damage equal to its power to a creature you don't control, so that is on the Kamal. And they are targeting the 2-2, so that will become a 3-3 and kill it outright. So that's really good. We're still able to wipe the board at this point. Not that the Simic deck is likely to do that. All the creatures still get trample though, and yeah, as punishment, the Ashaya is going to go in towards the Jund player, who I think might be close to an early scoop anyway, deciding not to block and just taking the 13 points of commander damage. And there is another land for us. So we can go Tempt with Discovery to try and keep the Jund player in it. Maybe they'll be able to get Urborg into Damnation or something like that. I think that might be an idea here. So let's tap down Kydele. And we'll go Refocus. That will draw us a card and untap the Kydele, of course. Gets us into Tolarian Kraken. Whenever you draw a card, you can pay one and tap or untap a creature. Need to concentrate on ramping before we start doing that type of stuff. So let's go Tempt with Discovery here. There's nothing particularly incredible to get with Tempt of Discovery. But like I said, we could fix the Jund player's colours here. So we'll just throw down Temple of the False God, I think. And yeah, they do get their black mana in the form of Command Tower. The Boros player correctly does not take us up on the offer. The other player does though, Nykthos, trying to nick, so we'll get another couple of lands here. Let's get the Manamo. And we will get Blighted Woodland as well, I think. And using the Blighted Woodland we'll get some more blue mana because we're a bit lacking on that front at the moment. Alright, now we're looking a lot better on our colours. I think the only thing we can do here, it would have been nice to get down the Rhystic Study there, but I think I feel good about getting the colours sorted instead, so we'll just untap our Kydele as a blocker. And that can be that, I think. Another 7 dwarves from the dwarf player. And then the Toolcraft Exemplar triggers at the beginning of combat on your turn. If you control an artifact, it gets +2/+1. If you control 3 or more artifacts, it gets First Strike as well. They only have a couple of artifacts at the moment. But swinging in with a bunch of creatures, a 4/3, a 4/4, and a 3/3. And they did pay mana into the Depala there. So revealing a bunch of stuff off the top. I think it's only, yeah, it's a dwarf or a vehicle from amongst them. So I think they got another 7 dwarves there. Yeah, a 7 dwarves and the Untethered Express going into hand there. Alright, and getting into a second source of black mana, so maybe we can see a board wipe here. Only 2 cards left in the Kresh player's hand, unfortunately, and I have a feeling that they're just going to go for their commander, and they are. Kresh the Bloodbraided. So no one managing to deal with the Ashaya, unfortunately. I'm not sure how much removal we actually have in this deck. This deck is brought to us by mythic patron of the channel, Christian Roberts, by the way. That's why I wasn't too sure about whether or not we've got removal in this deck. But here's a mythic patron, so a big thank you to him for supporting the channel for so long. Turn Timber Symbiosis being cast by the mono green player. And it looks like they whiffed on that, thankfully. A Castle Garenbrig coming into play as well. Only 1 card left in hand, so hopefully we'll be able to consistently deal with the Ashaya player. And Ashaya leaving us alone, surprisingly. So now the 12/12 swings in towards the dwarf player. And that does not have trample, so they could have chumped that but decided against it. So now it's back round to us. We get a Coalition Relic. And I think we can get a pretty good Genesis wave going this turn. Because I am worried about all this mono green stuff here. Might be that we suffer a board wipe, but I doubt the Jund player is going to wipe the board straight after casting their commander, unless they just top deck into one. So we might take some heat away from the Ashaya player here, but yeah, I think we're okay to do it. 10 into X on the Genesis wave. I'll try and catch up on the board. Would obviously like to do more with the Genesis wave, but like I said, just trying to catch up here and not a whole lot going on there. A Mirren Spy. We'll be able to cast an artifact into Mirren Spy, at least. Training Grounds as well for the Thrasios, Aetherflux Reservoir and a bunch of lands. Not the best Genesis wave I've ever seen. But we'll dump everything into play. And yeah, we should be able to go for the Coalition Relic here, which will trigger the Aetherflux Reservoir, and we will be able to trigger the Mirren Spy as well, which untaps our commander. And with that we'll go for Thrasios as well. Another 7 dwarves, that's the 3rd one, and a Path of Ancestry was used there, so they did get a scry. And a Mizium Tank, I think that's the first vehicle of the game. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it becomes an artifact creature and gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. One of the better vehicles. And yeah, I thought that the Genesis Wave might attract some attention. Now we are getting a couple of 5/5 dwarves in our direction and a 4/3 with first strike. We are getting some powerful stuff into play, so it's fair enough the training grounds is pretty scary with Thrasios, as is the Aetherflux Reservoir. So plummeting down to 31, I think we might have to chump the Ashaya with the Mirren Spy next turn. Or maybe we can just chump it with the Thrasios, because that'll only cost 4 mana to get out again next turn. Devouring Tendrils now, and that will trigger the Prowess. Targeting the drone that we've got over there, so we won't be able to chump block with that anymore anyway. And that triggers the Creche. It will put a plus counter on the Creche. Okay, and I didn't actually read that fight card. It says that the counter limit has been reached for Creche, 400 counters added. So that is a 403 with 400 plus counters on it. Devouring Tendrils is target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to a target creature or planeswalker you don't control. When the permanent you don't control dies this turn, you gain 2 life. So I'm not sure what's actually done that, because this is only a 1/3 and this only triggered once as far as I can tell, so yeah, I'm obviously misunderstanding something here. Alright, okay, so it is a bug according to the Jund player, yeah, so that shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't be a one-shot commander. So hopefully they'll be able to sacrifice that at some point, or at least not swing in with it, because if they give it trample or some kind of unblockable evasion of some kind, then it will be able to one-shot a player. Alright, and the Ashaya playing pretty conservatively, surprisingly. Only 1 card left in hand, and yeah, this only does it to elves, so they couldn't overrun with that anyway. Let's see what we can do this turn. Well, there's a Harrow. The Coalition Relic will trigger. We actually tapped it for mana last turn, so I won't get anything from that. I think we can go Tolarian Kraken here, and then we'll see if we end up drawing a card with Thrasios. We'll tap down the Kydele, put 1 of the mana into the Thrasios, and then tap a forest for the other mana. Only costs 2 thanks to the training grounds, of course. There's no kind of landfall that we've got, so I think I'm actually going to put that on the bottom and try and draw. Okay, and we end up getting into a land anyway. So put it into the Thrasios again, and again we'll scry a land to the bottom. Draw into a Felwar Stone. So then we can put mana into the Tolarian Kraken. And that will obviously untap our commander for us. So now, assuming that we don't just get into a big chunk of lands on the top, which we may well do, but assuming we don't do that, we'll be able to scry with Thrasios over and over and over again. But something coming from the mono green player, and there is a Kamal's Will. And that can't be countered. Choose a target creature you don't control. Each creature you control deals damage equal to the creature equal to its power. So in that case, I don't think we can... Oh, we can untap with the Manamo, can't we? So we'll just do that in response. And we'll carry on trying to chain off with the Thrasios here. Another land on top, we'll go on the bottom. And getting into the Grim Monolith. So we'll pay 1 into that ability. Target our commander again, and you can see where we go from here. Again, assuming that we can dodge lands. It's not quite infinite, unless we can pull all the lands out of our library. Mystic Remora we will leave on top. Now the problem we've got here is that we're demonstrating some decent sort of infinite here, and we don't actually have that much of a board state, so all the other players can gang up on us pretty easily and take us out, because we don't actually have that much by means of actually trying to deal with them all ganging up on us. So another land on the bottom, and draw into the Mind Stone. Yeah, and that's a shame. That player decides to scoop. We actually don't have infinite here. It's just a time-consuming thing. Alright, and looks as though all the players actually scooped there. So they were just assuming that that was infinite. It might have been. If we could have banked enough mana with the Kydele and put it into the Thrasios for only 2 mana, It might have been able to go infinite. We might have been able to dodge enough lands by whiffing a few times, but still having enough floating mana. Maybe could have played it out for a few extra activations to make sure that we didn't just hit a pocket of like 2 or 3 lands, which we might have done. And then even if we do draw a bunch of cards here, there's nothing that we can do against the swing back. But I have a feeling that against Magic Online randoms, this is all that is going to happen, so I'll have to leave it at that for Christian Roberts' deck. Massive thank you to Christian Roberts for giving me the deck to play with. I'm sure there's something that we could have cobbled together anyway by getting additional mana with Harrow and Felwar Stone, Grim Monolith, stuff like that. Mind Stone obviously with the floating mana from this little combination. And then maybe could have gone in for Ether Flux Reservoir Winds from there, I'm not quite sure. But it was a fun showing either way. Hopefully you all enjoyed it as well. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did. And if you want to support on Patreon, just like Christian Roberts does, then you can follow the link in the description below through to Patreon. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.